What is the most disturbing fact you know of? 30% of people reported missing, and found dead, were killed by the person reporting them missing. Kinda makes sense. I'm guessing a lot of time it's the spouse, who kills the other spouse, hides the body, has to report missing cause lol how would you not notice a missing spouse? Or parents reporting kids frown. Or kids reporting parents frown. That we know of. It's probably higher and they just weren't caught. Half of the homeless people in America were in the foster care system at some point in their lives. That's because once you turn 18 they give you a week of hotel vouchers and say sorry, figure it out. As someone from foster care, gonna pretend I didn't see this one for my own sake. Just because half of the homeless people in America were once in the system doesn't mean half of all people who are in the system end up homeless. Also spent a few years in foster care. I feel extra lucky not being homeless now. I saw this old video comparing 1-year-olds and how they reacted to their environment, specifically toys laid out in front of them. The kids that had been in happy and stable homes were curious about the toys and would play with them, put them in their mouths, general baby stuff. But the ones that were in unstable, unhappy homes were scared to even touch the toys and kept looking around with worried facial expressions. It was heartbreaking to see the difference, and it really shows that the home you grow up in has a huge impact on your life. We recently had this subject in psychology class, and it also applies to strangers. They would have the mom leave the room, and a stranger come in. The babies from unstable homes would show a clear lack in trust, even though they were only few months old. They would scream and cry until their mother came back, whereas the babies from stable homes would just start interacting with the stranger. It's really interesting but also incredible sad. Only 20% of the males born in the Soviet Union in 1923 survived World War II. I always wondered, how is there not a massive imbalance of older females in the world after World War II? There indeed is a lack of men in Russia. Currently Russia is experiencing their third echo of World War II. That is so sad and eerie at the same time. Whilst everyone completely recovered from World War II, Russia still gets hit by those echoes. People that could have been. During the late Roman Republic, one of the richest men in Rome, Marcus Licinius Crassus, used to own a team of firefighters. There was no dedicated firefighter service at the time. If your building was burning, he would offer to buy the building. If you agreed, he put out the fire. If not, his team of firefighters just left and let the building burn. His story does have a happy ending though. When Crassus mounted a horse to ride to the Parthian camp for a peace negotiation, his junior officer Octavius suspected a Parthian trap and grabbed Crassus' horse by the bridle, instigating a sudden fight with the Parthians that left the Roman party dead, including Crassus. A story later emerged to the effect that, after Crassus' death, the Parthians poured molten gold into his mouth in symbolic mockery of his thirst for wealth. If you get the wrong blood type for a transfusion, one of the symptoms is a sense of impending doom. The fact that a sense of impending doom is a symptom for some illnesses creeps me the fuck out. Can attest as an ICU-RN, when your patient states they feel like they are gonna die, buckle up because your shift is about to turn into a shit show. Hospital medicine physician here, I agree that when a patient says that it is an awful prognostic sign. Maybe the worst one. Not necessarily the worst fact, but there is still one body never found after Chernobyl. Valery Kodymchuk is considered to be the first person to perish in the disaster as he was closest to the explosion when it occurred. His body is presumed to be under the circulation pumps but could also have very well been vaporized in the explosion. Nobody really knows so. Could be alive and a super mutant by now. He will become more important if the wasteland needs a water purification machine. Nah man, he's a ghoul. What? You aren't gonna hit me or berate me? I was on a mock jury for an upcoming trial. The case was a man's family versus a power company. I learned that if equipment fails and you are boiled alive, a person can live in absolute agony/torture for 8 months before dying of infection. Edit. The NDA, I think that's what it is called, Expired 10 years ago, so feel free to ask me anything about the case. Edit: this is a real case that did happen to someone. I just happened to be on the fake jury for the trial. Unlike being burned dry, boiling water doesn't destroy your nerve endings either. So boiling is pretty horrible. Boiled/steamed the back of my hand in a kitchen accident. Can confirm, it's the only time I've ever openly wept from only pain. My then boyfriend was pleased as a peach. A few days after the burn unit I had to visit every other day for a while, kept commenting on how well the wound area was consistently wrapped and treated. It didn't even scar much. He was my own medic for a while. Married that Boy Scout. When you're burning to death, your eyes melt out of your head before you die. So you're still alive while your eyes are melting. Your eyes have their own immune system. At any moment your body can identify your eyes as a foreign object and attack. Do you know any more about this? Cause I read it too, and I asked my optometrist about it, and she said our eyes have the same immune system, but that our eyes are one of the most complicated parts of our bodies or something like that, and that they are very different from the rest of our bodies. You could be one brain injury away into being a completely different person. Possibly miserable. I know someone this happened to. He had a motorcycle accident and got a brain injury even though he was wearing a helmet. He went from a kind, caring person to an angry, paranoid nutcase. He fights getting treatment that might help him. Very sad to see. Possibly happy. Likely confused. Definitely injured. USA and Belgium had human zoos. Oh hey, quick question, but what the fuck? Think European explorer/colonial days. They were for white Europeans to see indigenous peoples of different tribes from Africa, America, and South America. The USA used to put African Americans in museums, specifically history exhibits, for white people to watch. Exhibits would show them being brought over in ships and picking cotton. Mind you, this was during Reconstruction, 1870s, as a better and paid job compared to slavery. Workers said it was completely humiliating and degrading. If you care for it, read The Underground Railroad. It's absolutely terrifying to read what they did to African Americans. Can't confirm if this is true, but I once heard that during the Black Plague some of the more heavily infected had pockets of infection that could be heard gurgling with microorganisms. Yes, this is true. And the pockets would burst if they became too big, which was supposed to be insanely painful. There were also two other kinds of Black Plague, the septicemic kind and the pneumonic kind. Both were super fatal, but with the pneumonic kind you would spit blood until you died. Fun times. Fun fact, due to the Black Plague causing evolutionary pressure, the more resistant blood types are more common in Europe now. There are more type A people, because their ancestors had a slightly better chance of survival. A trinary orbiting black hole system could eject the losing black hole into the universe close to the speed of light, mopping up everything in its path. It's almost impossible to detect due to its speed. Edit: spelling. TBH, this one is a bit deceptive because the main danger isn't in being swallowed by the black hole. A star mass black hole would be small, a few km across, and the odds of it being thrown through the galaxy straight into the Earth are beyond infinitesimal. The main danger would be if it flew near enough by, it would totally disrupt the orbits of everything in the solar system. Earth would either get thrown too close to the sun and fry, get thrown out into deep space and freeze, get thrown straight into the sun, get thrown into another planet, get obliterated by asteroids and debris from other planets thrown into each other, experience some combination of the above. During the Arctic, edit, Antarctic, exploration, one of the researchers complained about his shoes being soaking wet. When he took them off, he found out the liquid in his shoes was his decaying feet that liquidized and made a forbidden Slurpee out of his feet and blood. Edit: well, thanks for the award. Within a few miles, Mawson's feet became so painful that each step was an agony. When he sat on his sledge and removed his boots and socks to investigate, he found that the skin on his soles had come away, leaving nothing but a mass of weeping blisters. Desperate, he smeared his feet with lanolin and bandaged the loose skin back to them before staggering on. That night, curled up in his makeshift tent, he wrote, "My whole body is apparently rotting from want of proper nourishment, frostbitten fingertips, festerings, mucous membrane of nose gone, saliva glands of mouth refusing duty, skin coming off the whole body. The next day, Mawson's feet were too raw to walk. On January 13 he marched again, dragging himself toward the glacier he had named for Mertz, and by the end of that day he could see in the far distance the high uplands of the vast plateau that terminated at base camp. By now he could cover little more than 5 miles a day. Source: mummies weren't that rare until the Victorian British ate so many of them. Ate them? Medicinal mummy powder. Very popular throughout Europe in that era. Jesus. I need to think of a stupid supplement to sell to rich people. People are morons. Talk to Gwyneth Paltrow. Cloudy oysters mean they're full of reproductive fluids. As an oyster farmer, this fact cracks me up. I make a living because people love the taste of oyster sperm. Pour it into my mouth, oyster daddy. I like my oyster comb with salt and lemon. We did an oyster roast last night. The oysters were especially cloudy and salty. I just chalked it up to the time of the year.